Right, good morning. Good morning, and welcome to Unity of Kent's Sunday service for May 17th, 2020. I'm Reverend Patty Becker, and I am the spiritual leader for Unity of Kent. Our worship assistant this morning is Lee O'Neill, and our musician is Sammy Barnard. And Sammy will open our service with the song Power.
Good morning. Power of the month is also power. How coincidental. From this moment I am free to use this power given me to master body, sense, and mind. The I and I am aligned. Power through my words, power through my deeds, power through my thoughts within, power flows through me. Use me in the name of love. From this moment I am free to use this power given me to master body, sense, and mind. The I am that I am aligns. Power through my words, power through my deeds, power through my thoughts within, power flows through me. Use me in the name of love. From this moment I am free. Thank you.
Thank you, Sammy. Good morning again. I'm so glad you've chosen to be with us this morning. It's another beautiful Pacific Northwest day. Where I am, the sun is playing hide and seek with the clouds. Sometimes it looks like it's going to break through and be a beautiful bright day, and other times it looks like we might get rain. So it's a wait and see situation. Unity of Kent is an open and welcoming congregation, and we invite people of all ages, creeds, colors, lifestyles to join us on the path of spiritual discovery that we've all taken and that we all continue to walk along as a community. We promote a philosophy of practical spirituality based on core New Thought principles as well as the teachings of Jesus. We believe in each person's spiritual authority and know that by applying spiritual principles to our lives, that our lives change, that we experience more and more good for ourselves and our world, and we experience also a deeper sense of peace and connection. And so we gather together this morning to support one another in that grand vision of self-actualization on all levels. And to set a tone for that, I invite you to be with me now in prayer. I would ask you to minimize distraction, and if that means closing your eyes, to do so, to leave the three-dimensional world of the senses to the fourth dimension of spirituality that is so readily available right behind your eyelids, to be in this infinite space that I like to call infinity. And I begin prayer with our basic affirmation of one presence, one power, active in the universe, active in our lives, active in every situation and circumstance we encounter. And that this power and presence is light and grace, that it inspires, guides, and informs us all along our transformative lives. And so we lean into this power now, knowing that all aspects of our being are infused with radiance and moves forward gracefully according to the direction of our souls. And so we give ourselves over to it by releasing any obstruction, by opening our hearts, and by being present and available to what wants to make itself known to us today. In infinite gratitude, I release and let go and look forward to my own inspiration as it may unfold during our time together. And so it is. Amen.
Carry me gently together, together forever, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God. Cradle me, carry me gently together, together forever, oh God, oh God, oh God. Carry me gently together, together forever, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God. Carry me gently together, forever together, oh God, oh God, oh God.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us live on Facebook and Zoom. Well, I don't know about where Patty is, but where I am, it's raining. It's wet. Maybe the sun will be out later this afternoon. Let's start with our statement of faith. I believe the words will be on the screen. So if you want to say it with me, there is one presence and one power in the universe and in my life, God, the good, omnipotence. I trust and align with that power of goodness now. So today our virtue is expansive, and I'm sure we'd all like to expand our horizons right now. It's been a couple months since we've been able to go out and be around other people. I know I'd sure like to be able to go to the hairdresser and get a haircut. My hair is getting longer and longer. But let me read the virtue. Expansive is a condition of spaciousness, a sense of largeness. An extensive mind conceives of countless possibilities. An expansive heart has a vast capacity to love and care. Expansive ideas include many aspects of application. As a virtue, to be expansive is to be generously open to a wide range of potentials. And the affirmations, I am expansive, I have unlimited vision. I see wide ranges of possibilities. I am generous, open. So a woman said to her husband the other day, honey, have I gained weight since the pandemic? And the husband said, well, you were never very skinny to begin with. Time of death, 4/20/20. Cause of death, coronavirus. So our announcements are, please join us on Tuesday mornings at 11 a.m. for our prayer circle, and on Wednesdays for the Spirit Talk at 10 a.m. And also keep joining us on Sundays. We will keep doing this for a while longer, and it's kind of fun. We're getting used to it. So now I'll read the daily word. Today it's called Let Go and Let God. I let go and trust the divine in me. When faced with a decision to make, do my thoughts, let me start over. When faced with a decision to make, do my thoughts turn me immediately to divine guidance, or do I seek God's help only when all else fails? Unity co-founder Charles Fillmore wrote that God loves to be used, and the more you use him, the more easily you use him, and the more pleasant his help becomes. God lives in me and expresses through me. All of the attributes of God are as near as my next thought. I release my attachment to limited human reasoning. I center my mind and heart on the constant flow of divine love, wisdom, understanding, and strength. In the divine flow, I find answers to my questions. New possibilities for good emerge. I move forward with confidence. From there, you will seek the Lord your God, and you will find him if you search after him with all your heart and soul. Deuteronomy 4:29. Make it a great day.
And so, so this is the time in our service when our prayer requests would have been gathered, were we in our church building, but now I would invite you to hold these prayer intentions in your own heart for yourself, for any situation or circumstance, for a desire, whatever it is that you would like prayer support from your spiritual community for. We are here to be that rock and that knower of the good for one another. And so we also, at this time of the service, when we pray over our prayer request, we rub our hands together and get the energy going. And so here at home, wherever you are, I'd invite you to rub your hands together just to feel that friction, the warmth starting to rise up in the palms of your hands. And rather than extending it outward, I would invite you to cross your hands over your heart as I pray for our prayer requests. There's one presence and one power active in our lives in every situation, active in the universe, in our community, active in our decisions, our inklings, and our inspirations. This presence and power is called by many, many names. We call this presence and power for ourselves God. Some experience God as love, as life, as light, as radiance, as becoming, as a principle that is creative. This presence and power is continually expanding within our lives and in our consciousness, drawing us to itself in the form of self-knowledge and realization, and ultimately the realization of oneness. That though we may appear in separation, especially now during this pandemic when we're physically separating ourselves from one another, it is important to realize that in spirit, in spiritual truth, there is only oneness, and we turn our minds and our energy to that oneness now. And from that sense of oneness, the profound connection and realization of our spiritual truth, we know that before our thoughts can even form a request, that creative power is manifesting. And so we put our trust in this manifested power and have faith that in all situations, in all things, that absolute good arises. And with that confidence, we can let go and let God, as our daily word said, let go and let God, be the unfoldment of our lives, in this moment and in every moment. And so it is. Amen.
I can hear such sadness in the voices of my friends. They're talking about this world and its pain. But we must not lose heart. We cannot give up hope. For long have we journeyed, waiting for this day. These times, these times, these times seem so uncertain, so unkind. But this path makes us stronger, the higher we climb. We were made for these times. Let us turn our fears into courage and into faith, our greed into generosity. We can give our anger to love, compassion, and these times, these times, these times seem so uncertain, so unkind. But the paths will make us stronger, the higher we climb. We were made for these times. Didn't we say we are busier? Didn't we ask for grace? But we must remember, right now we are needing to send and shine our light in this hour, in this place. These times, these times, these times seem so uncertain, so unkind. The path will make us stronger, the higher we climb. We were made for these times. These times seem so uncertain, so unkind. But we shall use our voices, we will not walk blind. We were made for these times. These times, our hearts were made for these times.
Thank you, Sammy. That's a very appropriate song for right now. As happens so often, I should be expecting it, but I don't. It seems a surprise every time it happens. But when I assign the virtues to the Sundays throughout the year, I do that in January. And so the virtues were set for the year. And then a month ahead, I set my talk titles. And today, my talk title is Praying with Others. The daily word, which is let go and let God, and the virtue, which is expansive, just fits so perfectly with what I'm going to be talking about today in terms of prayer and praying for others. And it just feels so supporting and so connecting. I want to get into a space of expecting it to happen and not being surprised. But then on the other hand, I just love the the rising up of awe that happens when I'm not expecting it. So that's just my little comment on today, and what and all of the elements that are coming together for my talk today and our experience during the service. Well, many years ago, I found a cartoon. It was on prayer and meditation, and the cartoon had two monks, and they were sitting side by side. And obviously, one of the monks was an older, more experienced monk, and the monk next to him was the younger novice. And so the older one is sitting there in a lotus position, eyes closed, with a serene look on his face and completely at peace. And the younger monk beside him looks over with big eyes and says to him, "Is that it? Is that it? Is meditation that simple? Is prayer that easy?" And it just struck me as so funny. Is that it? Prayer is a simple process into which people put a lot of effort. There are many types of prayers that we say. There are many experiences of prayer, and just as many techniques for building consciousness. For those of us who put a value on spiritual development and deepening, prayer is an essential part of our transformation. Of all of the different aspects of prayer that can be explored this morning, I wish to address praying with others from the perspective of new thought and evolving consciousness. So those will be the lenses through which my talk is going to be focused. Many years ago in the 1990s, I think probably 1895, Charles and Myrtle Fillmore gathered with a group of people in the living room of their home for the purpose of praying together. By this time, Myrtle had had her healing experience through the process of prayer. Word got around, and now there's more attention that is being put towards more focus, towards the power of prayer. Myrtle's healing experience was the result of prayer, and as people became more and more aware of it, they also wanted her to pray for them. And so this little group of prayers in the Fillmore's living room got together at the same time every night for the sole purpose of prayer. And as a result of those evenings of prayer, people were sending in requests for prayer from all over the country. And as many requests as there were demonstrations that their prayers had been answered. Sitting in their living room, they realized that the energy of prayer is no longer, or not, limited to time, space, or location. That those having asked for prayer in remote parts of the country were seeing results and interpreting them as almost miracles in their lives. Conditions changed and illnesses were healed, relationships were transformed, peace of mind was restored, guidance was acquired, and many, many people experienced desires fulfilled. The power of prayer in ordinary lives was being demonstrated every single day by this little group of people praying together. Well, this prayer group eventually evolved into what we know today as Silent Unity. And Silent Unity has been doing its work of praying for people, praying with people for 125 years. It has been a ceaseless flow of prayer energy that has gone out from Unity Village to embrace people from all over the world. Holding one another in prayer is a profound act, both of faith and consciousness. I have asked for prayer many times during my life, for all sorts of reasons, in desperate times and in hopeful times and wishful times. I have turned to prayer, and I'll bet you have too. And by the same token, I have been asked to pray for others for all sorts of reasons, again, from healing to relationships to prosperity, to right decisions, to guidance. I have been asked to support other people in prayer. Every Sunday, prayer requests are written on the paper and are gathered up when we are in our building for the purpose of having the whole community lend their prayer support to one another. Unity of Kent has a prayer chaplain program, and our prayer chaplains are trained individuals who volunteer to do nothing but to pray and support anyone asking for prayer. Praying with others is a profound privilege, and asking for prayer is a profound act of faith. And it's important to understand the nature of prayer and why it's so powerful from our unity perspective. First and foremost, we must understand that the effectiveness of prayer is based in consciousness. The effectiveness of prayer is based in consciousness. Unity teaches that the energy of prayer is not directed towards a God out there or a person that grants favors. God is not a person, but it's an energy of being, an energy of life, an energy of love. It expresses as all that is. It expresses as the world around us. It expresses as us, and it is the emanating energy within all life. We are the expression of God within God expressing. We are the expression of God within God expressing. I think that's very important to understand. And our challenge is to hold this idea as the consciousness of oneness. The consciousness of oneness is what we also call Christ consciousness. The consciousness is developed by going to the silence. We develop this consciousness every single day through the activity of our prayer practices. Whether it's through prayer or meditation or a combination of both, it is this time set aside for ourselves in the quiet, going to the silence that builds this sense of oneness and Christ consciousness. And as we develop our own Christ consciousness, we become more and more aware of the Christ mind that indwells all of humankind. And we also come into a deeper recognition of this oneness, and it becomes more and more realized. Praying with others is the act of entering the field of oneness. This oneness is being consciousness, and it is the awareness that God is. That God, as God is, I am, and as I am, all others are in God as well. There is no separation in reality, only in thought and awareness. In spiritual reality, there's only oneness. When we can develop a beingness of complete alignment with the spiritual truth of our spiritual selves, of our spiritual reality, that is the point where manifestation happens in our lives. And Jesus demonstrated this over and over and over again throughout his life in the works that he did. And when we read the scriptures, when we read about his activities, we tend to call these shifts and conditions that he facilitated in people's lives as miracles, rather than understanding his demonstrations as a degree of his consciousness. So Unity's viewpoint is that miracles really don't exist. If by miracle we mean that there is some divine intervention supplanting natural law. Seeming miracles are the result of divine ideas, of principles, and of laws in action. And in action through consciousness in our lives and in the lives of others. Not all realizations of divine ideas take place in the same amount of time, because there are varying degrees of consciousness. There's varying degrees among people of alignment with the principles for which they are affirming for themselves and for one another. The more completely that we can realize oneness, that we realize divine, the Christ consciousness, the more rapidly manifestation tends to occur. Some occur so quickly that in our lives we sometimes feel like they are miracles, that a miracle has taken place. So I'd like to go to one of the healing experiences in Jesus's ministry. And this is the story of when Jesus healed the centurion's servant. And it can be found in Matthew chapter 8, verse 5 to 13. So when Jesus entered Capernaum, a centurion came to him asking for help. "Lord," he said, "my servant lies at home paralyzed, suffering terribly." And Jesus said to him, "Shall I come and heal him?" And the centurion replied, "Lord, I do not deserve to have you come under my roof, but just say the word, and my servant will be healed. For I myself am a man under authority, with soldiers under me. I tell this one, 'Go,' and he goes, and that one, 'Come,' and he comes. I say to my servant, 'Do this,' and he does it." So when Jesus heard this, he was amazed, and he said to those following him, "Truly I tell you, I have not found anyone in Israel with such great faith." And then Jesus said to the centurion, "Go, let it be done just as you believed it would." And his servant was healed at that very moment. This is a really wonderful story, I think, about praying for others and the power and the consciousness of doing that. This story demonstrates several features and ideas that are crucial in praying with others. And one of them is that it makes clear that this consciousness is not confined to time and space, that there are no limitations, which means that praying for others operates whenever it is put into motion. And Charles and Myrtle Fillmore exercised that truth within their own living room. People all over the country were calling in with prayer requests. It most probably came by mail, which took quite a while. And so you would think that, or there's a tendency to think that when a prayer request arrived at their home, it may have been 3 or 4, maybe a week, days later than when it was mailed, when the request, when the condition, when the situation was so crucial. And yet, seemingly after the fact or before the fact, it doesn't make any difference, because time and space in prayer is not lineal, it's eternal. And so we can pray for anyone at any time, and it would be relevant for their condition when that condition is being experienced. What the story also does, it affirms authority. For the centurion, his understanding of temporal authority within the context of his own job and in the context of the people under him, as well as realization of his positions with his own managers, he understood authority. And so he understood, in looking at Jesus, authority. In order to use spiritual authority, we must both understand and realize spiritual truth. So just as the centurion recognized and used the flow of power both up and down, so we too in the spiritual realm must recognize and use that same flow. In order to use spiritual authority, again, we must both understand and realize spiritual truth. What is the truth of my beingness? What is the truth of my essence? What is the truth of my divinity? And when we understand and realize what that truth is, then we can declare it. then we can accept it, then we can demand it. A third element that this story brings to light is that of faith. Declaring the spiritual truth of a situation can only emerge from faith, from absolute conviction in the principles and the truths that guide all lives. And so Jesus said, "Go, let it be done as you believe it would." That our lives unfold, that our creative impulses become manifest as our faith at the level or at the degree of our faith. So coming back to the question about underlying this talk is, so on a practical level, how am I to pray with you? How am I, Patty, to pray with you or anyone who asks that of me? And how are you, whoever you are, how are you to pray with people who ask you to pray for them? What's the right way? What's the most effective way? What's the most powerful way? And I'm sure that that's a question that I entertain, because when someone asks me for their help, I want to give them the best that I have, the best that I know, and to enter into that wholeheartedly for their good. And I expect that that is your same motivation if you agree to hold someone else in prayer. That we want that best for ourselves and for one another. And so how do we do it? How do we harness that? Well, we can look to the works of Jesus for guidance. And although we can look for guidance, like the story about the centurion, we mustn't get fooled into believing that his words are the power. His words are not the power. Get up and walk. You are healed. Come forth. Let it be done unto you. That's not the source of power. The source of Jesus' power was not in his word, but it was in his consciousness. We cannot imitate his words. We must imitate, embody, and express his consciousness. And that is what the point of our spiritual practices are every single day. Praying with others is more than a way of behaving, it's more than a way of speaking, and it's more than a way of doing. It's not the beauty of the words that are spoken, and it's not the intricacy of rituals that we may perform. It's a way of thinking, it's a way of feeling, and it's a way of being in consciousness that is in alignment with spiritual truth in oneness. When praying with others, we must first realize divine truth, whatever principle we're working with, whether it be the truth of abundance, the truth of wholeness, the truth of wisdom, whatever it is, we must realize and embody that divine truth within ourselves, and then realize it as the truth of those for whom we pray. So we come first. We have to be in alignment. We realize the depth of this truth, and only then can we extend that realization to those for whom we pray. So we behold others not within the myopic concerns of personal circumstances, but in the great reality of the fullness of their spiritual truth. In the fullness of their infinite wisdom, we realize and behold people in the reality of limitless abundance, of complete wholeness, of impeccable blessedness, being deeply at peace and enfolded in love. In praying with others, let no other thought or image other than these arise, no matter what the situation looks like. We pray for another's highest and best, not what we want for them, but for what their soul is desiring for them. And our only desire for those for whom we pray must be the deepening of consciousness on their part, which leads to the realization of oneness. These are really important ideas. And I want to move from them now to a little bit of practical application of this oneness. So let's move into meditation. This consciousness, this expansive consciousness which realizes oneness, is accessed through the silence, through the pathways of prayer and meditation. And that's why prayer and meditation is such an important part of our spiritual journeys and unfoldment. And so I would invite you to take a breath and to close your eyes, to really minimize distraction and to bring all of your attention to your inner landscape, to your heart, to your feelings, to your mind. To let your thoughts slow, your concerns drop away. Clarity arises, and willingness is at your elbow. And so just take a moment to create that space for yourself. A space of infinity, a space of boundless possibility. A space of alignment with the truth of your being. And in this space, I would invite you to bring the image of someone who has asked you for prayer. Someone who has asked you to pray with them or to pray for them regarding a situation or a discomfort or a desire. Someone has asked you for prayer. And so bring that image, bring the image of their face to your mind's eye and fill it out in great detail. And in the next few moments of silence, behold that person, not just visualize, but behold, feel, embody for that person the spiritual truth that they feel is lacking in their life. If it's prosperity, see them abundantly blessed. If it's for relationship, know them to be infinitely loved, to be the very thing of love. If there's a decision, know that wisdom is not something to be acquired, but that they themselves are that wisdom. They don't have wisdom, they are wisdom. And in consciousness, it comes to awareness. And so whoever it is and whoever the situation, see this for them. God lives in me and expresses through me. All of the attributes of God are as near as my next thought. I release my attachment to limited human reasoning, and I center my mind and heart on the constant flow of divine love, divine wisdom, divine understanding, and divine ideas. In the divine flow, I find answers, as well as new possibilities for good to emerge, not only in my life, but the lives of my loved ones. And so I move forward in the faith and confidence of goodness. And so it is. Amen.
In the silence, I can feel the love. In the silence, I can rise above. In the silence, I can hear the voice. In the silence, I am home. In the silence, I can feel the love. In the silence, I can rise above. In the silence, I can hear the voice. In the silence, I am home. In the silence, I can feel the love. In the silence, I can rise above. In the silence, I can hear the voice. In the silence, I am home.
Hi. I want to tell you that I recognize some of the things I may have talked about, some of the ideas I talked about this morning may be very familiar to you, and others not so much so. And so I would encourage you, if it works for you, the time slot, to join me on Wednesday at 10 a.m. for Spirit Talk. And I will use that. That is my platform for entertaining questions and talking more at length about these ideas in the group that comes on. And so far, it's been a really wonderful experience. So what can't happen in a service like this on a Sunday, we can extend it and address some of the questions and ideas and experiences and ahas and how-tos Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. By tomorrow, I will have had a copy of my talk today sent out, and probably on the website as well. And I think it might appear under Patty's blogs, I'm not sure, but you'll be able to find it so that you can refamiliarize yourself with some of the ideas I talked about, and then come in to have some dialogue. So now's the time in our service when we bless our love offerings, and it's such an easy way to give our love offerings, to continue our engagement with the cycle of prosperity and abundance in the universe, knowing that what I give returns, and that through the process of giving, I engage through the spiritual truth of faith and trust, that I am held in the loving arms of a benevolent universe. Our website has two convenient ways that you can give your love offering or tithe, as well as mailing it in or dropping it in the mailbox in front of the church. So, holding in mind or in hand your financial gift this morning, And just feeling the power of, alignment with prosperity coursing through your body. Let's say together our offertory statement. Divine love flowing as me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, all that I receive, and all that I am.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be, with God as creator. United all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me, and let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my joyous vow, to take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
Oh, thank you, Sammy. And thank you, everyone who joined in today. May you have a fabulous day. Be gentle with yourself, no matter what circumstances you find yourself in. Know that you are infinitely blessed and beloved as you move forward. And so I wish you well and have a happy week. Okay, thanks. Bye.